There's a moment in your financial journey when money stops feeling like a constant threat and starts feeling like a tool you actually control. Most people assume that moment arrives when you earn more, land a big promotion, or finally see six figures sitting in your bank account. But it's not when you become a millionaire, and it's not tied to flashy success milestones that social media loves to glorify. That shift happens much earlier, at a number most financial experts overlook completely, yet it quietly changes how your brain sees money. That number is $15,000, a psychological threshold where stress eases and financial decisions stop being driven by fear. I'm Mark Reed. I study financial psychology and behavior. Subscribe for real wealth strategies and like this video if it changes how you see money. Here's what almost nobody explains about building wealth. It's not a smooth, straight line where effort and results rise evenly together. Instead, there are specific financial checkpoints that behave like invisible walls, quietly blocking progress until you break through them. Once a wall breaks, the entire game shifts. The rules feel different, your options expand, and decisions suddenly carry less pressure. $15,000 is the first major checkpoint separating two completely different financial realities most people never realize exist. Imagine pushing a car that is completely run out of gas, stalled in the road with nothing helping you move forward. Those first few meters feel brutal. You strain against full weight, barely moving, questioning whether all that effort is even worth it. But once momentum builds, something changes. The car rolls easier, and suddenly progress no longer feels painfully forced. If the road tilts downhill, the car eventually moves on its own, requiring less effort while still gaining speed forward. That's exactly what $15,000 represents, the momentum point where finances stop resisting you at every step. Money stops feeling like an impossible force pushing back and starts feeling like something you can actually steer and manage. What makes this fascinating is that the shift isn't only mathematical or logical, it happens inside your psychology. Behavioral psychology research shows this barrier changes how your brain evaluates risk, safety, and future financial decisions. When your savings account sits near zero, your brain switches into what neuroscientists describe as a constant state of scarcity. In scarcity mode, every decision gets filtered through fear, urgency, and short-term survival rather than logic or long-term strategy. You accept job offers you don't truly want, not because they excite you, but because you can't afford to wait for better options. You remain in draining situations longer than necessary because financial uncertainty makes any kind of change feel dangerously risky. You say yes to opportunities you'd rather decline simply because turning down income feels impossible when money already feels scarce. This isn't about laziness, weakness, or lack of ambition. It's a predictable psychological response to sustained financial pressure. When trapped in scarcity, your brain literally cannot prioritize long-term growth because it's fully occupied with immediate survival needs. It's like trying to plan your dream vacation while your apartment is flooding with water around your feet. Your mind can't focus on future rewards when it's desperately trying to contain a present crisis threatening your basic stability. But something remarkable happens the moment you cross the $15,000 savings threshold. Your brain finally gets space, room to breathe, pause, and evaluate choices without the constant pressure of financial panic. Instead of asking, "How do I survive until Friday?" you start asking, "How do I build something sustainable that lasts years?" Financial wellness studies show that even $1,500 in emergency savings increases psychological well-being by nearly 18%. Just $1,500 creates a measurable shift in how safe, stable, and in control people feel about their finances. At 3 to 6 months of expenses, around $15,000, your brain exits panic mode and begins operating in opportunity mode. Now this is where the numbers finally start to get exciting, and the effort you've been making begins to feel worth it. Imagine you're consistently saving $800 per month and earning a modest 8% annual return through index fund investing. Reaching your first $15,000 takes roughly 18 months of disciplined saving, investing, patience, and steady financial focus. That's 1.5 years of sacrifice, saying no to short-term wants, staying focused when quitting would feel far easier. This is the phase where most people give up entirely. Not because it's impossible, but because progress still feels painfully slow. But here's what happens next, and this is where the process suddenly becomes powerful and deeply motivating. Your second $15,000 doesn't take another 18 months, it takes closer to 16 months instead. Same monthly contributions, same discipline, same investment strategy. Yet you've already shaved 2 months off the timeline. The reason is simple. Your first $15,000 is now working alongside you, generating returns of its own. You're not suddenly working harder, but your money has started working smarter in the background. By the time you're aiming for your third $15,000, the timeline compresses even further as your portfolio grows stronger. Your investments begin doing more of the heavy lifting while your personal effort stays steady and predictable. Eventually, at larger balances like $300,000, generating $15,000 in returns can take only 6 months. The same amount that once required nearly 2 years of grinding now happens almost automatically without extra strain. The first milestone feels like climbing a mountain. Every milestone after that feels like gravity is finally working in your favor. You might be thinking wealthy people succeed because they access better investments that normal people never get to participate in. At ultra-high net worth levels, that's partly true. Hedge funds, private equity, and exclusive deals do exist. But those elite opportunities are not what's driving the $15,000 transformation you're seeing here. The real secret is far simpler and honestly more encouraging. It's basic mathematics finally working in your favor. If you invest $1,000 and earn 10% in a year, you gain $100. Apply that exact same 10% return to $10,000, and suddenly you're looking at $1,000 gained. Same investment vehicle, same timeline, same risk level, only the size of the starting capital changed. This is why reaching $15,000 feels psychologically and financially transformative for most people. Before this point, investment returns feel almost insignificant. 10% on $2,000 is only $200. But 10% on $15,000 is $1,500. Now the numbers finally feel meaningful. At 8% annually, $15,000 generates about $1,200 a year without extra effort from you. That's money you didn't trade hours for, income that appears because your existing money worked on your behalf. The strategy isn't more sophisticated than someone with $1,000 uses. Scale alone turns small percentages into momentum. Here's what most people completely miss, and it may be the most important insight in this entire video. When you save $15,000, you haven't just accumulated money, you've fundamentally changed your relationship with it. You've built the single most important financial habit you'll ever develop, one that quietly reshapes every future decision. This isn't motivational fluff or positive thinking, it's practical psychology backed by how habits actually form. Saving $15,000 from zero isn't easy unless income is exceptional or expenses are extremely low. It requires real discipline, consistency, and the willingness to make uncomfortable choices over an extended period. You tracked spending, you prioritized saving over instant gratification, you resisted impulses that could have derailed everything. Most importantly, you sustained those behaviors for months or even years without immediate rewards pushing you forward. Through this process, you proved something critical to yourself. Money doesn't control you anymore. You demonstrated the ability to delay gratification when it truly mattered, not just when it felt convenient. This isn't merely a financial skill, it's a foundational life skill that carries into every area moving forward. Before saving $15,000, even a $5 latte could trigger mental debates about affordability. After reaching that milestone, small purchases stop causing stress because your priorities and systems are already proven. You know you can make big sacrifices when necessary because you've already done the hardest one consistently. There's another psychological shift at this level that quietly changes everything about how you experience money and risk. You stop seeing only threats everywhere and begin noticing opportunities that were previously completely invisible. When you live paycheck to paycheck, every unexpected expense instantly becomes a crisis rather than a minor inconvenience. Car repairs, a broken phone, or a rent increase don't feel manageable. They throw your entire month into financial chaos. These events don't just cost money, they drain mental energy, attention, and emotional stability all at once. With $15,000 saved, those same problems shrink dramatically in scale and emotional impact. Car needs repairs? It's annoying, but it's no longer catastrophic or capable of derailing your entire life. Phone breaks? Instead of panic, it becomes a practical decision. Repair it, replace it, or upgrade strategically. Rent goes up? Now you can negotiate salary, adjust housing choices, or explore better options without desperation. Even more powerful, you begin noticing opportunities that simply didn't register in your awareness before. A friend mentions launching a business and seeking early investors. Before, it sounded interesting, but unreachable. Now you can calmly evaluate whether investing $3,000 actually makes sense instead of dismissing it outright. A discounted property needing work appears. Before, you scrolled past wistfully, now you can run the numbers. A major industry conference could accelerate your career. Your company won't pay, but now you can assess the return. This is what people mean when they say money flows to money. It creates access, not magic. Money creates options. Options create better decisions, and better decisions open more opportunities to build wealth. Here's something counterintuitive that happens around the $15,000 mark, and it quietly changes how you think. You start caring far less about small expenses and much more about the big financial decisions. When money is tight, you obsess over every purchase, weighing brand versus generic and questioning even small daily expenses. Is this $4 coffee worth it? Should I upgrade quality or save the difference? Every choice feels heavy. These micro-decisions consume enormous mental energy because every dollar feels scarce and emotionally charged. With a solid financial foundation, you realize most small spending decisions barely affect your long-term financial future. Even overspending on coffee might cost $800 per year, noticeable but not destiny-defining. What truly shapes wealth are the big decisions that quietly compound over many years. Where you live, what you drive, how much you save, where you invest, and how you earn income. These choices can swing your net worth by tens of thousands of dollars over time. So instead of agonizing over organic groceries, you focus on optimizing major expenses and maximizing earning potential. You also ensure your investment approach is sound, scalable, and aligned with long-term goals. This shift feels incredibly freeing because it releases mental bandwidth for decisions that actually move the needle. You stop micromanaging pennies and start thinking strategically about building real wealth. Now let's talk about what happens to your career after this milestone, because this is where the transformation becomes truly visible. Having $15,000 saved doesn't just change money, it fundamentally changes your relationship with work itself. When you live paycheck to paycheck, you're effectively trapped in your current job whether you like it or not. Your boss can be terrible, coworkers toxic, and the work unfulfilling. But leaving feels impossible because survival depends on that paycheck. This puts you in an incredibly weak position where fear quietly dictates nearly every professional decision you make. You don't negotiate raises, push back on unreasonable requests, or explore new opportunities because losing the job feels catastrophic. Even exploring other opportunities feels risky because time off for interviews could threaten the income you rely on. You're stuck, and whether you realize it or not, everyone around you can sense that desperation. But $15,000 completely changes the power dynamic between you and your employer. You gain what I call walking away power, the ability to leave and survive for months while finding something better. This doesn't mean burning bridges or acting recklessly. It means negotiating from strength instead of desperation. That psychological shift changes how you show up at work, even before you say or do anything differently. You ask for the raise you deserve because the worst outcome is survivable, not devastating. You push back on unreasonable requests and explore new opportunities because you can afford calculated professional risks. Here's the remarkable part. Most people never even need to use their walking away power. Just knowing it exists makes you more confident, assertive, and willing to take on challenging, visible projects. When you show up differently, people notice, leading to better assignments, recognition, and often higher compensation. It's like holding a secret advantage you hope never to activate, but knowing it exists changes everything about how you operate. Here's where most people mess this up, and I see this mistake happen over and over again in real life. They hit $15,000, feel the psychological shift, and then immediately spend it on something unnecessary. They tell themselves they deserve a reward for being disciplined without realizing what they're giving up. Maybe it's a new car, justified as a symbol of success after months or years of careful saving, or an expensive vacation, or a house down payment they can't comfortably afford long-term. Don't make this mistake. It quietly destroys everything you just worked so hard to build. That $15,000 is not a reward for good behavior. It's the foundation of everything that follows. It's a seed that grows into long-term wealth if you're patient enough to let compounding do its job. Here's something surprising. Most people spend more on vehicles over their lifetime than financial independence requires. Between payments, insurance, fuel, and maintenance, transportation often costs $500 to $700 every month. Over a 40-year career, that easily adds up to $350,000 just to get around. At the same time, many of those people claim they can't afford to save for their future. The moment a new car leaves the dealership, it loses roughly 20% of its value immediately. You're not just spending money, you're actively converting long-term wealth into short-term satisfaction. A car can feel like success, but that payment is often the reason wealth never fully materializes. This is where having $15,000 saved completely reframes how you think about major financial purchases. Instead of asking, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" you start asking what this decision is truly costing you long-term. That $25,000 car isn't just $25,000 spent, it's money removed from future opportunity. Invested over 20 years at average market returns, that same amount could grow to over $150,000. Suddenly, driving a reliable used vehicle doesn't feel like sacrifice, it feels like a strategic investment in freedom. The irony is powerful. Flashy new car owners often feel stressed, while older Toyota drivers quietly build wealth. One group impresses strangers briefly, the other sleeps better at night knowing their finances are steadily compounding. This opportunity cost mindset extends to every major decision: housing, education, travel, hobbies, and lifestyle choices. Not in an obsessive way that removes joy, but strategically, ensuring resources are aligned with what truly matters. Once you think this way, you realize many things you wanted were driven by impulse, not genuine long-term value. That bigger apartment sounds nice, but is extra space worth delaying your financial goals by several years? This isn't about denying enjoyment, it's about choosing intentionally so money supports your life instead of disappearing. Let's be clear, $15,000 won't make you wealthy overnight, and it was never meant to, but it will fundamentally transform how you think about money, opportunity, risk, and the direction of your future. It's the difference between surviving month to month and intentionally designing a life that actually works for you. This is the threshold where financial anxiety slowly gives way to calm, grounded financial confidence. It's where compound interest stops feeling theoretical and begins working noticeably in your favor. It's where your career options expand because decisions are no longer driven by desperation or fear. Opportunities become visible that were always there, but impossible to act on before you had stability. Reaching this milestone isn't easy. It requires discipline, sacrifice, and consistency most people never sustain. But once you reach it, everything that follows becomes progressively easier and more forgiving. Your second $15,000 arrives faster, the third faster still as money begins carrying more weight. Start building this foundation today. Your future self is counting on the choices you make right now.